Welcome to the Enneagram Summit for Businesses and Teams. I'm the host of the summit, Michelle Joy. I'm a certified Enneagram teacher and trainer. And today we have with us Nicolai Cursino, who is a teacher and mentor of the Enneagram, consciousness, spirituality, and leadership. He's the author of the books Enneagram for Leaders and The Angel and the Leader. He has more than 30,000 students in different countries, and he's also the founder of Nicolai Cursino Institute, which is at nicolaicursino.com. And today, Nicolai is here to talk with us about inner transformation of leaders with the Enneagram. So welcome, Nicolai. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for you all in the summit to give your time and energy to listen to something that can actually transform the world, as I
Absolutely.
believe.
Yes, yes. I'm looking forward to hearing about that. Just to kind of set the foundation, can you tell us a little bit about the importance of inner transformation as leaders in a business or for teams?
One thing about leaders is that leaders, they have a huge impact on people, whether they like it or not. If you're a leader for example, 2 or 3 people, you impact these people, no matter how you think it or not. You arrive at your business company, and then depending on your mood, the way you treat them, your vision, or your model vision of the world, you impact these people, and you also impact their families because
Mm.
as they go back home, they can have a good day, a better day, they can be a happier person or not in their jobs. And so a leader, the smallest one, has impact on at least 10, 15 lives, 20 lives. If you go for a leader for a business company, for example, depending on how your consciousness level is, you're impacting thousands of people every day. So even more. So sometimes depending on the leader, you have an impact on more than a country. So the level of consciousness of a leader that mean to be using the Enneagram, the 3 centers of intelligence, the level of consciousness on your mind, on your heart, and also how you act in your body, it affects thousands of people. So it has a huge impact in the world around, in the families, in the planet, whether our leaders are conscious or not. So that's one of the reasons why I believe too much that we can actually change the world if we change leaders, no matter if it's business or spiritual leaders or even government leaders.
It's such a good point because you're right. With leaders, we look up to them. We look to them for answers. We seek out their advice, their guidance. We care about how they feel about us often, what they think of us. They generate certain emotions within us. And I think oftentimes at work, if we're a leader, I imagine it can be easy to get caught up in the stress sometimes and what needs to be done and these tasks. When what you're talking about is such a much bigger, like global viewpoint about how am I affecting the greater good here on the planet in my role. So,
Yes, it is. And it is true. And also the small things. I remember once in a big company, we did an exercise with the leaders. They were leaders of 4 or 5 people directly. It was a kind of a constellation that they had to put themselves and ask the other 3 people where they were in their map, if they were away or if they were from the back. And they could realize that some of the people from their teams were just like in back of them. And then we went to talk to that person, how she or he was feeling. And she was feeling very bad or sad or with a low self-esteem for, I don't know, 5 years. And how was this impacted her children? And we actually sent some HR people to make an interview to their families. And we could see that the leader, he didn't have an idea that he was impacting even the children of all those families. And this changed their point of view. It could be this simple to a planetary vision, I'm sure.
well, it's really powerful, again, the ripple effects, because I think we can just get caught up in what we're doing. Okay, I'm eating breakfast and I'm going to work, and today I've got this list of tasks I have to do. And to what you're saying, we don't realize that we're actually, in addition to what's on the list of to-dos, how I come across and how I'm being today could impact people I'll never meet. even.
And that's the importance of the Enneagram. What is the Enneagram? It's a tool for consciousness. So if I live as the machine, I'm not aware even from myself. And of course, I'm not aware of my environment, of how am I affecting people. But if I have a philosophy that I use an instrument of consciousness to look to myself, so I watch myself, how are my emotions today? Does the passion of my type is really catching me up? Am I fixated on my point of view, of my fixation on the nine types or my instincts? If I'm able to watch this for myself, I will have developed this capacity of watch how this impact others. And if I use, for example, the Enneagram well, and I know, for example, the types and instincts of my teams, for example, I can really understand how this role is impacting each other, and I can move from a place of reactivity. So I react and they react how they are, and we keep on law. There's no law of three, and we can move to a law of three space where I'm consciousness of that what I'm feeling now is affecting you, and depending on your types and instincts, I know it can affect you more or less, and you can react to this if you're more conscious in one way, or if you're not conscious, even your reaction, I will have more capability to hold it because I know it's coming from a place for a lower consciousness, for example.
I think, I mean, what you just said is really important, but especially I want to highlight the last part of there's reactivity all around. And I think we can either add to that and make it bigger and bigger and go down this other path, or we can already see the bigger picture where the reactivity is coming from and respond in a way that's actually helpful and going to calm the situation and take it down a different track. So go ahead.
No, it's true because I think the first work that you do with the Enneagram is the work on yourself. So one
Yeah.
thing that you should be really, really able to watch it's your reactivity. So if you watch how, for example, as a seven, as me, I can say that a critic or whatever, it can be interpreted as something that is trying to stop me from being larger and trying different things. I can have this reactivity and this will make me tense. But if I know this, and if I am a leader, this tension is not affecting only me, it's affecting 10, 12, 1,000, 500 people, even an organizational culture, depending on how important I am in, or if I'm a founder of the company, for example. So it's in a leader, this work that I do in myself, it's really with a scale much, much bigger. It makes my responsibility much bigger. And at the same time, it makes me not only a leader for a business company, but a leader for a better planet, a better world, better families. That's why the Enneagram can be so useful, I think.
Yeah. Can you talk a bit about how you use it more specifically and if there's room to speak about each type with regards to that as well?
Yeah, we can talk a little bit. I use this work for many applications. Business coaching, business mentorship, working with executive boarder, with the CEOs of company. I worked with leadership academies using the Enneagram from applying, for example, self-knowledge, reactivity, teams, everything. I can say that I did with small companies and big companies. But this work, which I'm saying today, it is the inner transformation of the leader itself, which means, of course, there are capabilities that I can get using the Enneagram. How can I deal with a type three, a type four, a type five? How can I communicate? This is very important tools. But one of them, and I believe that is the root of everything, is who am I? Am I really a conscious leader? And being a conscious leader means, do I really know myself? Do I really use the Enneagram to transform myself in someone who has an open mind, a heart that is more present and open to high qualities and less to the reactivity of dominating of my passions, for example? Do I really transformed myself? I could say in a spiritual level, because if I do, the environment that even my energy fields creates around me, and it's an environment that affects everyone for change. So I believe that changing, using the Enneagram for changing a company, or you have to have a deep work in the leaders themselves, like using retreats, using inner work. And I know a lot of people say that we should not change that much the leaders, or even focus on psychology, and sometimes only work with capabilities, but I don't believe this way. I think when a leader really awakens, even their energy fields can impact a company for all. For example, I'll do around on the 9 types, if it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a leader on type 1. So imagine you in low consciousness. What do you have? You have tension. You have tension. You have a mind that is judging people and judging itself and really looking after the arrows. What do you think this kind of energy field will emanate to people around? It's easy to know. People will be afraid of doing mistakes. They will feel tense. They will feel this bitter of this energy around. There will be heavy things around. So if you're a father of a family, a mother of a family, you are in this kind of environment. I don't know, 8 hours a day for most of your year, you are going to be impacted in many different ways, maybe 9 different ways, and you're going to go home and you're going to come with this tension, come with this pressure, come with this. So if I have this one leader to really go into him or herself and really works in the heart, really works in the anger, really works on this judgment inside myself, doing my work on a level of inner child, for example, and go to a place where actually now I have my body in a lighter way. My heart is in a place with less reactivity because I was really courageous to do the work I had to do, and working on being more kind to myself and accepting my own errors. I will change everything around because I will project a place and an environment where the mistakes of people will be okay, where lightness will be the culture that will be around me. But you don't get this in one workshop. This is something that you have to do when you're doing your psychology and spiritual work. That's what I believe. As a leader, you have to do spiritual and psychological path together with the abilities that you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
For example, sorry, Michelle.
I was just going to comment on one part of that you said about type 1. It all makes sense completely. And I think a lot of ones don't have an internalized kind voice to themselves, but they have an internalized critical voice to themselves. So then it can be hard then to have a nurturing, kind outlook to others. So it makes so much sense that you're talking about getting to the root, which is it's being generated from inside of me. So can I go inside and heal and address those things?
It's always inside me. All the 9 types, they only project into the world what the relationship they have to themselves. So inside of me, if I'm still in a lower level of consciousness, criticizing myself and seeing mistakes and even an error in my inner soul, what I'm going to do is that my eyes will go outside and see it in the other. So there's no other way. I have to heal the relationship within myself. Once I do it as a mirror, I will treat people differently. But
Mhm.
if I only get tools to try to be nicer to people, if I only get this corporate ways, which are good, I know, but there will be a point where they will go no further because it will need my inner transformation.
Mhm. Okay. Shall we do type 2?
Yes. I've worked with a lot of business leaders on type 2, and even in business, this thing about sometimes creating a whole career in terms of being worthy if people will or not love me. So adapting myself, and in sometimes unconsciously adapting and going after power and really being worried. And sometimes this manipulation that I have to do in terms to people to like me, it costs me the place that I don't follow my own love. I don't follow my own necessities. I don't follow my own way. So if as a leader, you run on people doing what is needed for people to love me, it's not going to be always the best decisions. It's not going to be the best decisions for myself because I'm not listening to my own heart. Sometimes it's not the best decision for the business. And sometimes this kind of leadership can be nicer for some people, which are the electives for the two, and not real nice for others. So what I'm doing is again being something that is not my true calling from myself. And I believe that Jews really can put the word love into their work.
Mhm.
Because if work is not separate from life, life is work. It has to come a place where we can uh, talk about love in our organizations. Of course, we have, like a team, we have an objective to go. This is something that we have to find a way to do it. But if I can be honest as a Jew, if I learn to really listen to what my needs are, I might start to say some no's and follow different directions, and that I can install a culture in the company where humanity is really something important. Because the love that I have in myself will flourish on around me, and people will start to be nice to each other. People will value this thing of looking into the eyes and being kind, and at the same time being assertive, at the same time following strategy or objectives. But I'm not doing this in order to people to love me or give me a promotion or like me or give me a high point. It's because I am being myself. And I know sometimes in business companies that this can be very difficult, but I think love is one of the things that we most need in business today. Some companies are already with the chief humanity officer, chief loving officer, and I think these people can be the brave ones to bring humanity and love back and kindness back to the companies.
And beautifully, beautifully said. And as you're describing type two, one way that I can see that unfold, there's lots of examples, I'm sure, but depending on where we're coming from, the habits of our type, or from this more expanded view that you're talking about, one way could be, well, that person, they could use some feedback, but I don't, what if they think negatively of me or badly of me? I better not. Where then we're actually robbing them of opportunity to grow and to expand as people if we withhold some feedback because we're worried they might see us in a negative light. I could see that coming up for some twos when they're in the habit of their type.
It's true, because as long as you need someone else proven for any reason to feel loved, you cannot be honest. You cannot be 100% honest.
Right.
So you have this trading of attention, but you don't help people to grow as they need. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
It's just like a mother that does everything for the son,
Mm-hmm.
and this is not the best way to grow, for sure.
Right. Okay.
Well, Tris, in my opinion, is one of the types that when a business leader transforms is one of the hugest transformations you can see. Because, for example, if you talk about type trees that are unconscious leader, all you're gonna see is the disease of old corporate way. You're gonna see, for example, the mask. For someone is just fighting and living after a mask of success and doing everything in order to get a new promotion or a new thing, and never asking really, is this what my soul is calling? Is this what really changes the world for the better place? Is this what really gives meaning or purpose for this company? And there's no time to ask these questions because these people, when they are blind, they're running so much after the next gold medal that they don't ask themselves who I really are, or even who my company is. Why my company does exist? It's only for profit. Of course, profit is part of a company. It means growing, and growing is beautiful. But it's not the only thing. If I'm running after this, I'm gonna build a life where all my teams will just believe that they have to just scale in the company or earn more money or get more this and that or compete against it than others. And the point is, you go home and one day you feel that your heart is empty. So I remember once I was doing a mentorship with a type 3, a vice president of a big insurance company, and she was very like a masculine, very tough with the teams because she was the only woman in the board. This is another thing that we know happens a lot. And she hired me, and I was giving some trainings with Enneagram for the team. And once she called me in her room, as the hire in the building, things like that, the trees like things like that. And she started to cry, closed the door, and she said to myself that she was not that person and that she wanted me to develop the best that I could for her team because she loved her team, but she couldn't say that or she couldn't be that. She couldn't even together with the board, she couldn't become this person, but she wanted to use our training and development to give to those people to love themselves and to be kind and to be gentle. And I remember after at the end of the training, she called me and she said one day, Nicolai, I'm gonna change my job. I listen to my heart. There's something else I wanna do all my life. And she cried again. And a week later, she called me and she was invited to assume a higher position in the same company in another country. And she said to me, I was not able to say no. It's too much for me. And this was the end of the work. But she said, I know what my heart wants,
Mm,
but this poison is too strong for me. So
mhm,
that's the difference of living a life. When a tree awakens, it becomes a very loving person because the heart comes back. And this person starts to ask what is true or not. And it starts to spread love. And trees like to make people to grow. So they become a very loving leaders that push people to grow. This is very good. But they push people to grow in a different way, always asking what is the purpose, what makes sense, what not makes sense. So the difference between to live a life in a mask and a leader can create a whole company where everything is kind of fake, looking for a value outside that does not exist. We know how this works. This
mhm.
is the basis. And we can create a place where this leader really puts the love and the running for growing and profits in the same place. It's a huge difference in my point of view.
Yeah, and you're talking about bringing their heart. So for the threes to bring the heart to the workplace, and I think that's contagious, right? If somebody's heart's closed, that's contagious to the rest of the people that we're working with and that we're around. If we've got an open heart and we're bringing that and that becomes evident, we're emanating it. It's not necessarily something we're doing differently, but it's felt, isn't it? And then that encourages other people to do the same.
If you work with people that want them to be conscious too, for example, people that are working on themselves and also they're better and better to read the fields around, then of course they will see this person has a heart or has not a heart, unless you work with machines. So then you are enclosed in a place where nobody is really awakened. So this
Mhm.
can be not a really good life. But if you, and we can say even basic things are, for example, for a 4 that needs this heart contact, for a 2 that needs this heart contact, for even an 8 that is opening the heart at that moment and is feeling, are you being fake or not? This is affects all the 9 types.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I can see that. Okay, let's do
Yeah.
4.
Or there's a huge difference if you have a leader that is a type 4, but that is always complaining about life, about environment, about that other teams have better things, or complaining that is always lacking something. It's a hard thing, so it is contagious. So it's if you have a leader that is always kind of heavy, always bringing bad emotions to the place, and with this vision that something is lacking, this is really contagious in a place. This
Mm-hmm.
is really contagious to people around it. And also, if you have a lower consciousness as a 4 and a leader, sometimes you have difficulties to bring your creativity to the material world. You actually sometimes get lost in this thoughts of lacking and this lack in the heart. So this can be a kind of leadership that really doesn't work very well, especially because if your consciousness is low, as a 4, you're going to be very directed to your own needs, to your own lacking, to your own comparison. So this can be a form of leadership that will not really work. Your teams will not felt to be seen because they're not. You're looking at yourself, at what are lacking to you. Your teams will not really feel this is a light place to create and to be myself,
Mm-hmm.
because it will not be. It will be a heavy place. It
Mm-hmm.
will be a place of these lackings. So if you change as a 4, if you go and work in your heart, if you bring your consciousness to your body and you manage to look at life in a way that, yes, we are blessed. We have lots of opportunities. And I can go to my feelings and be aware of people around me and also use my arrow 2, I would say, to look at people, to make them grow, to work for them, to work for my teams, to work for a better world. Then I will change a lot also in terms of how we can create this company of creativity, of vision, but also with this good feelings, I would say, that people are really connected to each other.
You know, when you describe, as you're going through each of the types, you describe a before and after, I'll call it. And it's very palpable. When you describe the before, there's this feeling of constrictedness and closed, and then you describe what the possibility is and what to do instead, and it's so much more expansive. And that's your point, right? To bring that into the
Yes.
workplace. Because when you're talking about 4 right now, who can have heaviness to them when they're in the seat of their type, that can stifle creativity, like you said. And part of their work is to be open and expansive. And I think 4s can get stuck on self like stuck internally rather than looking at the big picture. It's not about me, it's about all these other people. And how can I impact them in a greater way?
And actually, the heart of the forest, they are really willing for that. They're
Mm-hmm.
really willing for purpose. They were really willing for find something that can have a greater impact. But if they're blocked in their own old stories, they're
Right.
not connecting to it. And yes,
Yeah.
I'm really describing because my point is that it's all about energy. So
Yeah.
whatever you do or not, there's a huge difference between a constricted energy field and way of living and an open way of living in 9 doorways. So it's,
Yes. Okay. This is really powerful stuff. I'm loving it. Let's go on to 5.
yes. So again, imagine that you have a leader that is really someone disconnected from people. At least first disconnect from his or her own body and own our feelings. So the effect of it is that I will be dealing with people every day with this frozen contact, with this frozen touch or this frozen heart. So people, I've seen many times people that want to be seen by their leaders, and sometimes they have fives, and they really get crazy because they're trying to connect, to be seen. Imagine, for example, for choose threes and four that need this heart connection more than the others, they will not have. And what happens there? This is an effect because it goes to them, they go into their own inner shadows, and then I'm not loved, I'm not worthy as a tree, I'm not, I have my. So this thing is very different when you have a leader and you don't feel seen by this leader or touch, you don't feel that you have space or you don't have a contact. You want to make a meeting with this five leader, you have to talk 2 weeks or 3 weeks later, and you have to plan it. You have just 40 minutes. It's not. So everything starts to be in a cold place. Everything starts to be distance. So there will be a lack of power, a lack of impact, a lack of contact. And in terms of leadership, this is a huge lack. That is the difference between leadership and management. Of course, as a five, you can manage well the numbers, you can manage well the report, you can manage all those things, but you lack of this touch, of this impact, of people that want to do things because you are with them. You're not, if you're alone in your room, you'll never be felt as a real leader. So imagine a five that really works on him or herself, that comes to the body, and you can touch, you can feel the energy field of this leader when you meet him or her. You can feel that this person is looking at you, that this person is listening at you, that your ideas are really important. So that sometimes when this person says, it's really empowering people, using the body power, using the heart power, people will be impacted. There will be an effect that these people will get closer to this leader, will follow more the ideas, will be more able, and they will feel energized. They will feel more seen. And I
Mm-hmm.
think this is the difference between on an extreme, of course, dealing with a machine or in an ice place, or going back and coming to a place of work and everything has power. There's a lot of contact between people. We feel we're a team. We feel I see yourself, you see myself. So I think this is a difference between a distant leader and someone that is really together, embodying heart with people around.
Yeah, and with fives, when they're in the seat of their type, oftentimes people can interpret, well, they just don't, they're not interested in me, they're not interested in what I'm doing, they don't care. And fives are often misunderstood in that way because there is a big part of them that does care. And so I think part of what you're talking about is to bring that part of them forward more out in the open, so that can bring people can feel energized and seen and heard and cared about.
Yes, and actually, this communication is very important because people reacted to the communication they get. So if a five is lost in the only in the thoughts, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you care, sometimes you want, sometimes you think this group is important, that person, but if you never say it, or when you say it, you just say it from the mouth, but your heart and your body is not there, people will still have an impression that they're not seen, they're not a part, they're not important.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
think this is really really something that change an environment for fives, and for Dan, of course, it's a much different world to have energy and to be with people and to be energized. And we know that a five will not change this only because of a feedback or something. It requires a lot of inner
Mm-hmm.
effort to
Mm-hmm.
change.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very well said. All right, let's go to six.
Well, if I have a leader that is really, I can say, is not trusting life anymore, is not trusting that the better can happen, and it's lost on anxiety. We know what can anxiety makes to other people around. You can create a culture where everyone will be kind of some people will feel that this leader is not really trusting me because it's he's always or her she's always asking something, it's not
Mhm.
trusting me. That, for example, is an experience that I had when I was executive many years ago. Once I had a six manager, and as a seven, I was always with this idea that this person was not trusting my ideas because it was I say, hey, think about this or think about that or that or that or that. But I think worse than that is that in a lower consciousness, if a six gets lost, he or she gets lost actually with this inner authority, which I would say this inner leadership, this inner guidance. So you project to people around you, there's a lack of confidence in yourself. So you are in a boat with a leader that is, this leader is not trusting himself or herself. And how this affects us? It affects a lot, immensely. If I'm a 6'2" in this company, I will get crazy and I will start, I don't know, to attack or to doubt or whatever happens. But whatever you is your type, you want to have a leader that trusts him or herself, especially in the difficult times and moments. So, as a six, if I manage to go into this inner journey of the inner hero, the hero's journey, which is the 6 point, and I start to trust and transcend this trust, hey, come with me. I trust my guidance. I trust you can trust. We will be together. We will be, you can, I know that the road will open if we start to walk. So you can imagine the difference between one kind of leader and another kind of leader, especially in a world like today, where we cannot have all these plannings for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Things change. So when things change too much and you cannot use your mind to predict it all, you have to go back and trust life again. It's
Mhm.
like in COVID, you didn't know what was going to happen, but some people were working on themselves, where some people were meditating, some people were using their spiritual tools, some people were using this, whatever they have, to start to believe that something is gonna come. And
Mhm.
so when I say this to my team, to my groups, to myself, people get more confident. And
Mhm.
being more confident, they will do better things and live better lives.
Absolutely. And something I'll just add with type 6, add on to what you've said, when they're in the seat of their type and you're talking about not trusting others for reasons that you mentioned, that has a very disempowering feeling to it. If you're on the receiving end of that, you feel disempowered. You're not seen as very capable, competent, like you know what you're doing. It kind of takes the life force out of you in that moment. So what you're talking about is really infusing people with trust, and you know how to do it, and I've got faith in you. And so that's coming from a different place, much better
And and
place.
And this six cannot do it as something learned or fake.
Right.
This person will have to go and really understand uh, what is my relation to life, to higher power, to my own inner guidance. So I'm not saying this is an easy work. I'm saying this is a possible work, and that leaders should go after this inner transformation, and that this is not a shallow thing. I think all leaders should undergo through a very deep work on themselves as long as they're leaders. And it can take years sometimes. But for me, this is a capability that is necessary to all leaders in the same way as communication, in the same way as or managing or analyzing data or whatever, it's part of the business.
Yeah, that's an important point because we can all pretend to do these things for a few days or short term, and then eventually whatever's inside is gonna take over and
That's
come
gone.
back out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it takes us asking ourselves some very different questions than we've asked ourselves before. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. One of the gifts I will give to the people that are watching us is my book, The Angel and the Leader. And this is a book about a CEO of a company that undergoes a very difficult situation, which he comes back home and realizes that his wife is with a brain tumor. And he has to go inside himself and he starts to pray and starts to work for guidance from angels. And the angels guide him. But before he uses this in the company and changes the company, he has to undergo a very deep place of death and rebirth again. And that's what I believe. I believe that leaders, only awakened leaders, will really make good work. I think profit can be done by awakening or not awakened leaders because it's not how well you play the rules of the game. If you play well the rules of game, you can make profits. But is this a life? I don't believe that leadership or business is about it anymore. I believe that these companies they have a spiritual purpose as people have a spiritual purpose. So
Hmm.
this can be joined together, and the Enneagram can be a wonderful tool for it.
Yeah, I'm experiencing that as I talk with you. So let's do 7.
Yeah, let's do 7. That's it's my point. I don't say my type, it's my point. Well, it is really different when you are a leader that you have this capability of making uh, big promises to people. You have this capability of making people really be in this state of, well, let's try to do it, let's make it, and now, and after a while, you yourself, you change, for example, a position, you change, for example, a way, you yourself, you change your own idea and you stop uh, showing these people this way. I think 7 leaders, they have to go and find their inner pains, their inner sadness, and their inner difficulties that they have to be in their hearts to contact people. Otherwise, my leadership will be creative with a lot of promises, but I will be running away from the real deal. I will be running away from the really difficult times and feelings that we have to work with. And sometimes a business, a team, or a work, people want to be seen in their difficult ways. People want that a leader is able to say what is easy, what is not easy, what is nice, and what is not nice. So people want to see that this leader is not abandoning the ship if things get difficult or not nice or not fun anymore. So there's this level of commitment that a leader have to be in terms of not a heavy responsibility, but a light and commitment that say people can feel that this person will be here no matter what happens. And sometimes if you are in a low level of consciousness as a 7, this is not really that you something that you can trust. This leader can change for another place that is nicer, or if the money is better, or if the challenge is better. And these things is really lacking the point of view. And sometimes there's also things that are I would talk about myself. Sometimes as a leader, I I had this calling to really do something for the company that would be an awakening, a difficult, nice point. And sometimes I was afraid to do it because I was afraid that if I told these people this truth, for example, my relationship between spirituality and business that I had 10 years ago when I started to work this way, I was afraid of this because I was afraid that saying my truth would generate a responsibility that perhaps I didn't want to take. this thing would like imprison me. And I had to go into my own heart and see uh, what is the feeling that I'm able to have to this people, to the people, to the person I talk, to a company, to a higher purpose, that no matter what happens, I will not leave this path. I will be here in the joyful days and not so nice days too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you're talking, the word truth comes up for me as well when you're describing sevens is you want people, if they're the leader, you want people on the receiving end to feel like they're capable of holding the full truth so that if I'm being led by a seven, I don't feel like I have to hide certain parts of me or certain things that I can't say or go to them about. But really, all of the truth is welcome here and can be addressed and handled and managed and held.
It's true because if I'm not really working with my heart and attention, my own attention will be in my own agenda. So
Right.
my mind will be with my ideas. I will be doing things, but I will
Yeah.
not really be paying attention to people. And people will notice it, and they will know that they can laugh with me, they can say nice things with me. But if they're undergoing, for example, a problem on their families, on their career, an emotional thing, they will not bring it to me. So this is not a real relationship. So what I believe is that as sevens work on themselves, the depth of the relationship between them and the people around, and also between this seven and the higher mission or purpose, it's becoming something really different. And of course, it will open a whole different communication and exchanging in the leadership relationship.
Okay. Very nicely said. And in the interest of time, let's go on to eight.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Well, it's also like trees, like I said, it can be a very different environment if you have someone with in a higher level of consciousness or in a lower level of consciousness. In a lower level of consciousness, you see this environment with this person really reacting to the violence in the world. So imagine that I carry in my own heart so much violence that I become a heart of stone. So I become someone that is heavy. So I'm fighting back life. I'm fighting back people. I'm pushing all around because of defending myself of my heart. So we can see how much damage this can cause as an eighth leader if I'm really dealing with people as if they were my enemies or as if they could attack me from the back at any time. This is really a have environment. This is really a place where people can sometimes go work and have an eight in a lower consciousness, and these people can be violated. These people can listen to things that really hurt them. These people can be overwhelmed. There's a lot of things that are not really nice because if you have a violence in your own self, you're gonna spread it and make it all around. So imagine when someone as an eighth leader, and I've seen this happening many times, it is beautiful, with this heart, with this energy, with this power to open the heart and really starting to become this real person, which is the real way to what I believe it is, this sweet person that really starts to bring love and caring and kindness to it all, it really changes the lives of people. I've seen this happening quick. I've seen this happening with some leaders that, for example, went through a real mentorship or coaching work, and they started to work on their own vulnerabilities and open themselves to their teams and actually start to only to show the true heart, and this has a power. People, instead of going working like this, they will go work like, I feel warm and protected by this person that will never leave me, will be here with me. And this person that sometimes can be strong, can be tough, but I know that is a person that can love me, be with me, and this is an amazing leadership. The eighth leadership, when the heart is open, is an amazing leadership. So I believe that this is one of of course, again, this is not easy, but it's highly possible, and it changes the life of everyone because people are really impacted when the eights are in a lower consciousness. They can
Mhm.
really hurt people. And when they go to this place where the heart is open, it really changes the business and really
Mhm.
changes the relationship.
I hear it. The before we don't feel psychologically safe, emotionally safe. The after we do, and it allows us to then open in this way. And you're all of the themes of what you're talking about here. I don't remember who said it. Maybe it was Gandhi or somebody said the way to change the world starts with ourselves. And to the point you're making, when we change ourselves, especially as leaders, when we are in a role where we're impacting so many people, it can really have ripple effects.
It
So,
can, sometimes it change the company, sometimes it doesn't. Change a few people, and sometimes another company in a higher level of consciousness is calling or waiting for you. This
mhm,
is also a vibrational point of view too.
yes, good point. All right, and let's do
And
nines.
then the
Yeah, nine.
nines. I've worked with a few nines that were CEOs, and I have a huge respect for the nine leaders. Uh, when a nine is really in a lower consciousness level, I believe sometimes it's even hard for this nine to assume a leadership position because these nines will try to become invisible if it's possible, and a leadership position is never invisible. But imagine that these nines are really in a rising their level of consciousness, and they are really nice leaders in terms of listening to people. But sometimes when you don't say the no's that you have to say, you create a few problems. I will give an example. I was in this company, and the CEO of this board was a nine, and there was a lot of conflicts between people inside this board. I remember it was 12 people, and only two were women, two. And one of these women was suffering some really not well words or pressure for other people from the board. And this CEO, he knew it, and he wanted to change it, but he took a year and a half to make something like the mission or a change or a huge feat, because he wanted to, this is a guy in a high position, so let's wait for what other companies say. We have to follow the procedure, talk to you and talk to you. So trying to negotiate it all, and the situation got really worse. So the beautiful thing that this person had was this capacity of talking to everyone and trying to solving the issues between this communication between all people and listen to all of them. This was good, but sometimes they were waiting for a position that really would say, hey, and this company, respect is a value. And when someone does not follow this value, to me as a leader, I will act in a right action instantaneously. I will not leave this a negotiation that will stay for a year and a half. So I believe that when nine leaders can really awaken themselves to this body and power to do what is to do in terms of the whole, they are really different from when they are trying to negotiate it all to people, but they are not really doing what they have to do in the speed that they have to do when something difficult arises. So this is also has to be with this nine, um, has worked on his own heart, has worked on his own body, on her own body, and this is for me something that changes a lot for nines that can make this huge impact on companies. Sometimes it's needed that then take more difficult actions, and that they can show that they are the guardian of all. And sometimes nines have this difficult between balancing democracy and balancing acts that I have to do, and difficult acts that I have to take.
Yeah, and if nines are going to take difficult action, it's an indication that they're holding on to something important to them, because when nines are seated in the habit of their type, sometimes they maybe say, or they represent what needs to happen or what they think or feel. Somebody disagrees and they'll let it go right away, go in the back. So what you're talking about is staying anchored in that, representing it and taking action quicker than procrastinating and letting it take longer than it needs to.
Yes, and also be open for change,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes there's this culture of desiring things not to be changed. I know this has to do also with instincts too, but sometimes in this world that we have now, things have to be faster. So it's a different kind of a leadership too. And actually it has to be also, if sometimes nines are good leaders, they can make all this, but they're not coming for their own true calling, because they have the skills for managing people and make things work, but they're not listening to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe there is another stage where this nine asks him or herself, what do I love? What does the company I really want to build? What is this inner calling? And this is a very difficult place, that when nines go and they are awakening, and this, and with all these capabilities that they have to manage people and to manage the resources, this can be a huge leap, a huge step in a leadership.
This was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed my conversation with you. I feel an energy shift just from this conversation without even having gone in and done any inner work. So thank you so much for sharing your great wisdom and your experience, and your really generous free gift, which people can get by clicking the button underneath this video that says free gift, of your book. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Michelle. And as a last message, I think for leaders that are listening to us, it is already time for you to say your truth. If you believe in a world, in companies, in a relationship that are really driven by spiritual values, I'm not saying religious value or higher purpose, you have to start saying it out loud, without the shame or without the worry of using these or that words. Because when you say your truth, sometimes you believe that people will attack you or judge you because you're mixing things that are not supposed to mix in a business environment. But that's not what the world is waiting for today. It's waiting for brave leaders. And one of the things is that say your truth, say what kind of world you want to live in, what kind of business you want to say it, what are the values, and don't work for any place that does not provide or believe in these things. You should really build a life on leadership and business that is really working for a better planet and a better soul purpose.
Very powerful. Thank you for that parting message. All right. And I'll say goodbye for now, Nicolai. Thank you again.
Okay.
Okay.
Goodbye, Michelle. Goodbye to you all.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.